All right. I am now joined by Nando Vila. I'm pretty sure most people watching this know who this guy is, but I guess I'll just briefly say co-host of Woke Bros. He's the co-host of Weekends on Jacobin. He is the co-host of Let's Pot It Out, the Entourage podcast. And he does other stuff, but that's a good intro. How you doing, Nando?
I'm doing well. How are you, man?
I've been pretty good. Earlier this afternoon, I recorded a conversation with Richard Wolff and Mark Bly. That's going to be up on the.
Damn, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really good.
Were there? Are they largely in agreement, or were there disagreements?
They seem to be largely in agreement.
Interesting. Because I don't like associate Mark Blythe, and maybe I'm wrong about this, with like a traditional socialist kind of tradition, the way I would associate Richard Wolff.
I was actually, there was one moment when I was a little bit surprised. So it was like the three of us and like Griscom was moderating, and it was for the TMBS, or the channel formerly known as TMBS, or whatever that is. But and there was a moment when Wolff was making this like super like traditional kind of Marxist point about automation, and if workers control the means of production, then automation works out to everybody's benefit and all this stuff. And that was like the one point where I was thinking, it's like, I wonder where Bly is going to come down on this. But he was just like, oh yeah, I agree. So, all right,
there you go. Nice. Well, that's cool. Yeah. That's amazing. That must have been fun.
Yeah, for sure. So that's going to be airing.
Also, you got Berlatsky, dude.
Yes,
you got Berlatsky, and you bless your heart, you like did a very meticulous response, and yeah, that's that doesn't sound like fun.
No, it was not. So Noah Berlatsky is this guy who I guess he's like
he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in terms of like in terms of what I mean, right? In terms of like that kind of person, he is the first ballot Hall of Famer. He might be the GOAT in terms of that guy. I don't even know how I would describe him, but he's just like a certain type. Yeah.
Yeah, so my understanding is that he does this political stuff, but he's like mostly like a film critic or something.
Yeah.
Although the one opinion about movies that I heard apparently he had was that he thinks They Live is anti-Semitic, which is
yes,
perfect. Perfect, but
he thinks They Live is anti-Semitic, and he thinks like the Marvel movies are the greatest artistic achievement in the history of mankind.
Yeah,
if you think like Tchaikovsky or some some like classical thing is better than Marvel, you're actually just an elitist, classist, problematic white dude, bro.
Yeah. So it turns out he's also an idiot. I mean, I probably wasn't clear in what we just said, but yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, he's somebody who, like, the first time I ever like saw this guy's byline, it was an article about Brett Weinstein and what happened. Brett Weinstein and Evergreen, and obviously I can't fucking stand Brett Weinstein. So like, since like the point of the Berlatsky article was, oh, he's lying about this, so I lapped it up. I was like, oh, great, right? That's like, but then I actually started looking at the articles. Like, wait a second, this doesn't really make sense. The things he's pointing to as support here don't actually say what he says they say. And, that sort of turned out to be typical, like, of like later Berlatsky stuff. I would see, like, there was a point where there was Amber Frost from Chapo was doing this like DSA Medicare for All thing. And somebody was like making a big thing about the fact that the place where they were going to have the meeting, which is
it was ableist.
Yeah, tons of meetings had been held with nobody saying anything about it. Was was like not properly handicap accessible or something, and then like there was some, and it was like, okay, well, we'll try to do it. It's like, no, you're just terrible able.
You're just
And so like in the ensuing thing,
canceled.
Like, you know, she made this like crack about how like you can't, you know, the whole thing was so obviously in bad faith, you just can't give it anything, and you just need to say like, oh, it's like, oh no, we actually do hate disabled people or something like that, right? It's like, it was just so
obvious. Joke, clearly a joke, yeah.
Could not more clearly be a joke.
Yeah.
But then Berlatsky wrote this article about it where he's like, oh wow, you know, this is very troubling. They don't support the rights of disabled people. It's
they
like,
don't.
Okay.
They actually, Amber has spoken repeatedly about how she wants to repeal all disability protections and laws.
Rip out all the ramps, you know, like you can't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, he like, so I'd written this thing for Arc Digital Media, which was basically it was about how I'd like watched MSNBC for the first time in a while, and I thought they had like really weird, like condescending essentialist things to say about race.
And the
the
magical black woman voter.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the point of the article, and like what Noah somehow got out of the article was Ben doesn't think racism exists.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's what you tell me that in private, but you know, you never say that in public. You just text me that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I text you that 20 times a day, but like I don't, you know, but like I don't say it in public. You know, it's you know, it's like that, and you know, like sometimes even you'll just request information, be like, hey, Ben, I don't know, you know, when we were going to do that next Sopranos thing, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it out. By the way, racism does not exist.
I'm always like, oh, that Ben, you know, there he goes again, denying the racism. Oh man, yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. Well, bless you for actually like taking the time and going through it. Must have been exhausting and infuriating.
Yeah, well,
you know?
Yeah, like and you feel like, I mean, it feels like a little degrading even to like engage with it, because you know, at a certain point in the article, it's like, well, he says, I think this, and wow, I really don't. And it, you know, it feels a little bit like that thing where LBJ supposedly was running for the Senate. He said that, you know, he helped spread the rumor that, you know, his opponent was fucking pigs. And it says, why would you
it's a lie. Yeah, you can't do that.
Lie. And he was like, yeah, I know, but I just want to make the bastard deny it, you know? So it's like, I feel a little bit like he's already won at the point where I'm like, well, actually, as a matter of fact, I do think racism exists. But yeah, so it's not as good as the Marvel movies. Those are obviously number one. Yeah. And then there's like, you know, Tchaikovsky and that shit is like, you know, somewhere down there. and then somewhere way down below there is Queen's Gambit. We're going to talk about it today. I should also say that our friend and comrade Leigh Phillips is who wrote a book called co-wrote a book with Mikhail Rozworski called The People's Republic of Walmart that has interesting stuff in there about Soviet history. So he would be really good for this. Might be joining us or might not. His excuse was that he's up against a hard deadline with some edits. I'm pretty sure he just decided, you know, between what I saw him last night and today that he didn't like us.
Right. But, he saw your text denying racism.
Yeah, it's like, look, the first 95 times you texted me that racism doesn't exist, I can live with it. But like right now, that's too much. That's too much. I can't take the 96 one. McMindfulness, who moved my cheese. He mentions Giorgio's Pizza, which is actually a really good pizza place in East Lansing, Michigan, which is not where I am now. It's a couple hours away. Let's see. Ben, can you please read what Ludwig von Mises said to Ayn Rand about telling people they are inferior? Could listen to that all day because it really reveals what we're up against both major parties. Yeah, so appreciate the super chat. Very generous. So yeah, Ludwig von Mises wrote this fan letter to Ayn Rand after Atlas Shrugged came out, where he said one of the things he said in the letter was that I really appreciate that you had the guts to tell people what nobody else does, that they're that the great masses of people that they're inferior and whatever.
They're just idiots.
Because of the greatness of entrepreneurs who do things that they couldn't possibly do, and etc. So it's like sort of the it's like a little bit like my racism isn't real text, that's right. It's just interesting, seeing how they talk to each other there. But I do want to get into Queen's Gambit. There's actually a terrible transition to be made here, thinking about that sort of lonely individualistic conception of genius versus some of what comes out of the show. But let's. But I guess before we get right into it. So just out of curiosity, how much do you actually know about this stuff? Like, do you know the are you somebody who actually knows the names of chess openings and shit like that?
I wouldn't say I'm not completely ignorant about it. Like I knew the Queen's Gambit and I know the chess opening that you can checkmate someone in 4 moves, and but I'm not if you asked me to do a Rui Lopez opening, I don't know that I could do it from memory anymore. I mean, I used to be kind of into it when I was a kid, and then a guy beat me in high school while he was blindfolded, and I was like, you know what? I can't, I can't retire, But I didn't come from it. I didn't come to it from a position of total ignorance. But I'm by no means a serious chess player or that into it anymore. Although I will say I did do an event with Garry Kasparov in 2010. Okay. And I hung out with him a little bit and talked to him a little bit. This was in Miami, actually. And then I did get really weirdly into, because Deadspin had really good coverage of it, the last World Championship of chess. I was eagerly awaiting Deadspin's recap of the day, because they had a guy, I don't even remember his name, but they had a guy covering it, and he was just great at explaining it in layman's terms for someone, and it became really thrilling in the way that Queen's Gambit became turned chess to be made chess to be something that was actually absolutely thrilling. So not total ignorance, but definitely not in any way a chess guy.
This is a Deadspin, you said?
What? Sorry?
This was a Deadspin, you said?
Yeah, this was a Deadspin before Deadspin kind of went away. This was, if you look up Deadspin's coverage of the last Chess World Championship, which Magnus Carlsen beat a guy from Miami, actually, which the fact that a Miami guy was in the chess final is kind of remarkable to me. But it's okay, guys. Ben and I both are I'm from Miami. Ben lived in Miami, so we can do that.
I lived in Miami for 6.5 years. Nando's from Miami.
Yeah.
We can shit on Miami a little.
Absolutely. So what about you? Are you a big chess guy?
No. I was a little bit similar. I didn't, a little bit less from what the sounds of it, than you were. I mean, I was a enthusiastic casual player for a long time when I was younger, but I mean, I certainly never I'm sure the first, I'm sure I don't know, maybe the game that she plays at the high school where she beats the 12 high school students at the same time, maybe one of the high school kids, I could have beaten one-on-one, but those are the only people that she plays the entire show, who I think I ever could have beaten. But it is also the one of the real virtues of the show is that it does an amazing job of both. You can tell they're really bending over backwards to get the chess right. You mentioned Garry Kasparov, he's a consultant on the show. And they're, in fact, actually I was looking at the the bookshelf afterwards where some of the chess books that me and, my little brother, I think mostly got, over the years we're at, is oh yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that was in the show, that's there, but they do a really good job of making it dramatic and compelling for people who basically don't know what they're talking about. So that's really good. Saw by the way in the chat, it's Left Reckoning, so I'm not sure if this is Matt or David, but it says Nando and Ben, let's play chess. So I don't know if I'd want to embarrass myself by doing that on a YouTube. But
No. Yeah, very, very much no. It's like, oh my god, he just did that. Oh my god, he did that move. Oh my god, no, what an idiot. No, I mean yeah, I mean the scenes that the chess scenes are remarkably compelling, given that chess is two guys, or in this case, a guy and a girl sitting across from each other, not speaking, and there's no real action to it. Like, that's one of the most remarkable things about the show. Like, I remember the first kind of major chess throwdown that she has was with that guy Beltic, who's the actor from Harry Potter, and it's like a really long scene, and they don't speak basically once. I mean, he introduces himself and then that's it. And then she, at one point in the middle of the game, she gets up and goes to the bathroom and takes the drug. But that whole scene is like 5 minutes long, and they don't speak. You don't know what the hell's going on. Like, their moves are happening, but you don't know who's winning or not. They're not like really focusing on oh my god, it's knight to queen 4 or whatever. Like, they're not telling you anything about it, but it's still like absolutely riveting. And just from the actors, kind of the way they're reacting to moves, like who's on top, who's struggling, when the tables turn and all that stuff. It's really great. Like, it's a testament that good storytelling and good filmmaking, good writing can make anything thrilling, can make even the most boring thing absolutely compelling. That I work in the TV business here in LA, and there's so many kind of rules that are seemingly hard and fast about what audiences will tolerate and what audiences will like. And then every once in a while, a show like Queen's Gambit comes around, in which it's a period piece about chess with no major stars, like not a single established actor that anyone would recognize, and yet it's the biggest hit Netflix has ever had. So it really is. It's amazing. That's one of the things I like most about Queen's Gambit, is that it really upends all of the established rules of what audiences would like and will tolerate.
Yeah, no, 100%. And over the course of the show, right? So and by the way, I should say it's a 7-episode miniseries. I can't imagine that anybody's it was incredibly popular. I can't imagine anybody's watching this who hasn't watched it, but just in case, we are going to
spoiler alert. Yeah.
Gambit, so but yes, everything that follows, it's a non-stop stream of spoilers. But in the beginning, Beth Harmon, the main character, she's at an orphanage, and she learns to play chess, because when she's sent downstairs to clean the erasers, she's the janitor, Mr. Scheibel, sort of playing by himself, gaming out moves, and then she learns from him, and then she goes out and she starts studying chess books and stuff. She gets to the point where she can go to this Kentucky state championship and wipe the floor with everybody, and then she goes on and on, become the champion of the world. And so part of it, I think, is just that it's really compelling, like watching that process, that even though obviously it's 7 hours of television, you are not in fact learning very much about chess from watching it, but it feels like, you're on that journey. You're picking it up, you're picking it up with her. And there's also an element, I should say, that is about that's about substance abuse, which on some level is there, because like, all right, so she's going to be like the greatest genius ever, doing what she does for the entire show, and so she has to have something besides the background to struggle against, but it's handled in an interesting way, and it's also just like seeing this person who is a very awkward kid, become like just growing up and becoming a person, and all of that's very compelling. But I also think, I don't want I mean, I don't want to obsess about this. I do want to talk about it as a show, but I do think it's also saying some interesting stuff about Cold War politics.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I was just blown away by. I mean, Scott Frank is a longtime, very successful screenwriter and director. He wrote Out of Sight, which is one of my favorite movies. He wrote Logan, which was also nominated for an Oscar for best screenplay. He did a show for Netflix called Godless, which no one watched, but I thought was pretty fun. But he's never made a political movie or show in any way that would indicate that he, would be sympathetic to the Soviet Union. I figured he'd just be your standard kind of Hollywood lib, in which, like if you watch Chernobyl, which was just basically anti-communist propaganda, even though I enjoyed the show, like I can enjoy the show while realizing that it's anti-communist propaganda. This was completely the opposite. It was completely the opposite. Like the USA State Department ghoul comes off totally unsympathetic, and the Soviet characters, who start off looking like these kind of gray automatons, really, like, by the end, you realize that they do have a sort of genuine spirit of cooperation and solidarity that is absent in the American players. And that's one of the reasons why they completely own the American players year after year after year after year. It's this sense that they, they're all grand masters of chess, yet they kind of huddle around and they help each other out, instead of the Americans, who are just kind of always out there for looking out for number one. So yeah, the Cold War politics was completely surprising to me, and something totally unexpected.
Yeah, definitely. That in fact, the suggestion at the end seems to be that the only way to beat the Soviets at chess is to become like them. Which is happening. I mean, look, earlier on, she's taking community college Russian classes. And she's which is kind of fun too, to think about who's taking community college Russian classes in 1960 whatever. So, she's so there's a scene where she's getting high for the first time and like chatting with her Russian classmates about the evils of capitalism and stuff, which she doesn't, whatever. I mean, she doesn't have any political opinions exactly at any point in the show.
Right.
But it's there, and then of course in the last few episodes, it's all about showing the ways that she's only able to win because she and all of her friends, from the competitive chess world, start to act like the Soviets act, in collaborating and cooperating to make this happen, and that's all counterposed against that State Department ghoul that you mentioned, or there's even a line of dialogue that's kind of suggested that maybe he actually works for the CIA.
Right.
And he wants her to, I should say first, that her trip to the Soviet Union is originally supposed to be financed by this like Christian Crusade group. That apparently regularly funds, American chess players who are able to compete in the Soviet Union, and they want her to issue a statement about her Christian faith, which of course she doesn't have any, and how that leads her to anti-communism and the threat of communism and all this stuff, and she just refuses to have anything to do with it. And then at the very end of the show, really, like I saw somebody in the chat, kind of sort of half jokingly say, does she defect to the Soviet Union at the end? Which
maybe
seems like it, right? Like probably not literally, but I mean, like the way the scene is played, it almost feels like she is, because she's in the limo with the State Department guy, and he's talking about how all this like propaganda stuff that they're going to have her do when she gets back, that she's going to there's a little anti-Texan jibe in there that she's going to go to the White House and beat LBJ, Texas being more of a checker state, and she's going to do this and that and party at the embassy and whatever. And she's just like, can you let me out of the car? And she says, well, you're going to miss your flight. And she's like, whatever. And then like she goes over to where like this public park in Moscow, where all of these like old Russian guys are playing chess in the park.
Yeah.
And I should say also, like, a big part of this is the suggestion that, you know, Russia is like, really, I mean, it's almost simple as like Russia is better culturally, you know, because like they appreciate chess there. You know,
yeah. I mean, we're in the United States. The elite American chess players in the show are basically freaks and weirdos living in this subculture. They help each other out to some degree, but they're just kind of like underground freaks and weirdos. That's what they are. Whereas in the Soviet Union, they are celebrities. They are the cream of the crop that the system is kind of creating, and that everyone there sees them. And like, you know, Beth Harmon walks down the park and everyone immediately recognizes her. Whereas if the world champion Garry Kasparov could walk down Central Park, he could even walk down the guys playing chess in Washington Square Park, and no one would recognize him, right? And yeah, I mean, I think that there's that suggestion that you know, and the Soviet Union, for all its flaws, like culturally really did celebrate things like chess, ballet, classical music, literature, all these things. Like, if there's a really good book that won the Nobel Prize called Secondhand Time by Svetlana Alexievich, which it's basically an oral history of the collapse of the Soviet Union and sort of Russia in the 1990s and people that lived through it. And one thing that you see is that the transition between this society in which the foreman at some factory or you know, a steel worker at wherever was frequently reading Dostoevsky and the classics and arguing about these things, whereas the transition to capitalism very quickly turned Russian society into what we know of as Russian society today, is like these like cheesy nightclub guys who like gold chains and Adidas tracksuits, and you know, they're just tacky as hell. Like that happened because of the collapse of this state project that really celebrated and rewarded high culture, so to speak, as snobby as that can sound, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, right. Well, there was, although in a way it's anti-snobby because, you know, part of the Soviet project was always like, you know, part of the propaganda was always like, hey, here, you know, here that stuff is for everybody. You know,
right.
I mean, it even kind of in the same spirit as like what we were talking about, you know, when before I alienated Leigh with the 97, you know, no racism text. That last night I was on the Jacobin YouTube channel with him and Bhaskar talking about this book, Read Plenty, and there's something that came up there about you know, Soviet champagne, which I looked up later, and I guess. Yeah, that was something they did. You know, they had like whatever, you know, some Soviet, you know, probably not amazing, you know, sparkling wine that, you know, they came up with in the 20s. But like they did this big like advertising campaigns for it, right? You know, it's like, oh, right. You know, Soviet Union is the people's champagne. And it's kind of the same spirit as all the rest of this stuff. Plus the fact that they were really encouraging all of this like math and science stuff, you know, a lot of which, you know, had to do with, you know, with the Cold War and the various forms of competition, you know, they were doing with the West. But, you know, the chess, you know, fit in, you know, like fit in very naturally with all that. So like there's a scene in one of the later episodes of Queen's Gambit when she's at the American, you know, whatever it is, the American Championship, and the guy who she beats, who I do not remember his name. Do you?
The guy she beats in the American Championship, the guy from Game of Thrones. He's in Game of Thrones. He's also the drummer in Love Actually, which we're gonna get the Love Actually annual Love Actually discourse anytime now on Twitter. But yeah, he's the kid in Love Actually. He's Liam Neeson's kid. That guy, right?
Yeah. The
guy who's like the champion and the guy with the big hat, and he's
yeah. So there's a point where she's just gotten there and she's standing around. So it's like a lecture hall at a university, and there's like this smattering of people in the audience, and like a couple of them are asleep, and he's like, wow, right, you and I are the highest rated chess players in the United States, and we're playing at this like university classroom with like cheap plastic boards. You should see where they play in the Soviet Union, which of course you actually finally do in that last episode. And yeah, that this is at the end, this is portrayed as this culture where, Beth Harmon could be a rock star, for playing chess. And she's just so happy, just going into it and sitting in the park, to play chess with, with some random, old Russian man after everybody has mobbed all over him. Where, yeah, as you say, I'm sure, maybe people recognize Garry Kasparov, played chess. Maybe. Right? And probably not everybody there.
No, and even that scene where she's playing that tournament in Mexico City, and she plays like an 11-year-old Soviet kid, and afterwards, it's like this really long match. She ends up beating him after like an incredibly long match. She's like, "You're the best chess player I've ever played." Like this little Soviet twerp is better than like the American adults by a long shot, at least in her estimation. Yeah, I know it's interesting. I mean, it's certainly unexpected, and it's I wonder how much it kind of reads to, like, quote unquote, a normie audience. I'm sure they might not even notice it, but it was something that was really surprising, and I think added to my appeal of the show. Although I think the show just works on a pure kind of entertainment level, but the politics were surprisingly, and even the gender, because there's such a trend in Hollywood toward what I would call like ultra wokeness, right? In which this story in the hands of a lesser writer would be like a pure kind of girl boss story. And that's obviously there to some extent. You can't get away from it. Like in a 1950s, 1960s woman who becomes a chess prodigy is always gonna be an element of the story. But it felt very organic to the story, and it felt very organic to her. It wasn't like this kind of imposing 2020 sensibilities to the past, which is something that Hollywood is doing a lot now. And it never works. It literally never works, but they keep on trying to do it. Like those shows always fall on their face. But they keep trying to do it. This one I thought felt very organic and natural rather than forced. And you know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. Like, and I think it's probably even good along those lines that they did, if any, like I'm sure you could criticize Queen's Gambit from the opposite standpoint and say that, okay, being realistic about this, female chess champion in the 60s, people would have been saying like way more like horrible sexist things to her all the time, than anything you see in the show. And I think that's probably true. But at the same time, it would have been really easy to just make the show all about that. And that would have been a much less interesting
They also touch on a thing which is also a competing but also true thing, is that Beth Harmon is an attractive girl in a world in which all these guys are nerds, and they're all in love with her at some level. Like, right, that's kind of an ongoing joke, is that all the American chess players are ultimately in some way in love with her because she's beautiful, and she's got this kind of, I wouldn't say she's charming in the traditional sense, but she's got this like odd kind of offbeat appeal because she's strange. She's got this strange, and they're all just in love with her, which is also a true thing that would happen. Instead of all of them just kind of banding together, like, take her down. They're all like in love with her, and they all want her to like them on some level, especially after she beats them. So yeah, that part I thought was interesting, and going back to like the janitor character, which again I think in lesser hands and in a sort of less confident writer director, either that guy would be like your classic kind of teddy bear, very warm guy who like takes her under his wing in a very kind of loving, sweet old man way, or he'd be the opposite of like this just kind of insane like brute who like beats chess into her in sort of like a traumatic way. And instead he's just kind of like a not particularly nice, but totally fine, kind of gruff, but not over the top. Like again, they don't go to either extreme with him. They just make him this kind of like, yeah, not particularly warm or cuddly, but also not like a creep or anything like that.
No, he seems like somebody who's like a bit antisocial in a nerdy sort of way, and isn't totally sure how to how to relate to her, but also seems like a basically decent guy. But it's not like he's, I mean, he plays chess with her, he's not going to become some sort of like long-term surrogate father figure. There's nothing like that, right? It's like, no, he's somebody who like, he teaches her to play chess, and he's very like, and he thinks it's cool later, right? That's the extent of it, which ended up feeling like like a much more interesting character. And then I think actually also similarly when she leaves the orphanage and she's adopted by this couple. The man is a salesman or something. I'm not totally clear on that. But anyway, somebody who takes a lot of business trips and can afford a really nice house. And the wife is this like, drugged up, 50s, 60s kind of housewife, but also somebody who is this incredibly talented piano player who could have been doing that with her life.
The wife, the actress who plays the wife is a director. She's the director. She directed that Mr. Rogers movie with Tom Hanks. Like she's like an established director, like, and I thought she gave it, she's more of a director than an actress or an actor, I guess, is my point. But but I thought her performance was also great. Again, like they did have this weird bond. They were both kind of flawed people. She wasn't a great adoptive mother, but she was also well-meaning and thinking like, again, they never fell into like cliches of one or the other, which would be so tempting to make her either, alcoholic and abusive in a way, but or just kind of, or the opposite, like the woman who like saves her from this thing. Instead, they find this third way, for lack of a better term, in which she is problematic. She's not a great mother, but she's well-meaning, and I think Beth kind of recognizes that ultimately from her, even though like she's got all these trouble with men and always kind of, she has like that she brings out bad guys around, so to speak. She does have good intentions and a good heart, and Beth ultimately recognizes that.
Yeah, for sure. And like she's and there's a point where like, she gets pretty excited about the idea that she can live off Beth just playing chess in a realistic way. I mean, not like a sort of like horrendous, like stage mother sort of way, but just like a sort of like, oh wow, okay, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Great, right? But also she's like genuinely supportive, but she doesn't really know how to be a mother, and she's and she ends up inadvertently like really feeding Beth's alcoholism. She keeps on like giving her drinks when Beth is like
Gibson. Yeah.
It's like, oh hey, try a martini, and not and not noticing that she has a Beth has an addictive personality. But yeah, I think the mother character, I mean, she was great. And the people who, the other American chess players, were a good, combination of, nobody's a villain. Everybody is a little bit in love with her the way that you'd expect. In some cases, a lot. There's the one guy, Beltic, who says he spent like his college money fixing his teeth for her.
Right.
And but those are those all feel like well realized. I mean, there's the French model who is there to as a plot complication mostly to get her in trouble, but she's a fun character.
Yeah. No, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, the show isn't like the show. I wouldn't say the show is perfect, but it's rare for me to see a show that is works on so many levels to the point where it's become a massive hit. Like, it's a truly massive hit. It was #1 on Netflix for a very, very long time. I don't think Netflix expected it by any stretch of the imagination. It was not market. You can tell when Netflix really was trying to push a show or trying to push something. Especially here in LA, you'll see billboards. That's when you know that they're really trying to push a show, is when there's like a lot of billboards for it. But this was just, it was a sleeper hit. It was like and especially in a time where, there's just not much. There's not much that's good out there, and I feel like the entertainment industry is in a sort of creative crisis in many ways. Like, I was looking at someone's like year-end best movies list, and I was like, man, none of these are like that good. Like, some I enjoyed some of them, but none of these are like great. Like, this was like a really bad year. Like, it does seem like the industry is in kind of a crisis, and this one just came out of nowhere again, with no famous actresses or actors, no big stars, nothing. This sort of weird period piece that just somehow tapped into a certain vein in our culture that made it explode. And I don't really know why that is. Like, I don't really know why. Like, my girlfriend loved it. Like, she absolutely loved it. And, it was in a way that she hasn't loved something in a long, long time. I don't know. Like, I really can't quite explain what it is about it that works so well. I don't know what you think, like, why it caught fire in such a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of Harmon being a really compelling character, the fact that they were like, the fact that it was a combination of this kind of competence porn that people really like, but also actually being a little restrained in all the ways we've been talking about how the rest of the characters are built, about the world, so it makes it like more immersive and interesting. You don't have that like sense that you have with a lot of TV that, like, after you've watched 5 episodes of something, like, you feel a little gross, even if it's like fun watching each one, because it feels a little bit like you're like swallowing a bunch of really sweet candy, at the same time, right? You don't have any of that. And also, frankly, I think that the fact that it was about chess, and it was presenting it in this way that, even if you don't really know about all this stuff, you can you can tell that they're like really putting an effort into like getting this right and being interesting, and choreographing interesting games, and they give you, I think, just enough of a sense of how it works, that I mean, people like, I think there's a lot of hunger for that kind of thing. I mean, not not that specific example, although I think one of the consequences of it being so popular is that it's gotten lots of people who who don't know any of this stuff to I don't know, get an account on chess.com or whatever and learn a little bit of it. But I think that there's a lot of hunger out there for like technically complicated things, but also that feel like I mean, I think you couldn't do something like this about theoretical physics and have people be that into it, but like that feel.
Hey man, you never know. Never know.
Fair enough. But that's like technically complicated, but people feel like they have some sense of it and like they could learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I after we watched the show, like that, this is how this conversation got started. Was I posted on your Facebook the clip on YouTube of like some chess guy who has a YouTube channel where he analyzes real games, and all the games in the show were based off of real chess matches that exist in actuality. And like, I was looking through them, and it's cool. Like the match between Beth Harmon and Beltic in the Kentucky State Championship was kind of like the first big chess match in the show. It's also based on a real match, and they chose a match that ended with the queen and the king next to each other, like on squares next to each other, and then he kind of like retires and then he shakes her hand and stuff, and it's like they even went to that level of detail to like find a chess match, because obviously the symbolism is like is obviously there, but they don't mention it, they don't talk about it. It's just kind of all working in subtext. But that was like the degree of care that they took to really get it right. And it's the problem with like a lot of sports movies, and like this show kind of works on the level of a sports of a sports movie. Is that often the actual sports scene, which you would think is not that difficult to get right. Like if they can recreate the invasion of Normandy in Saving Private Ryan, like they could do a basketball scene that looks real, they could do a football scene that looks real, but it so often falls flat. Whereas with this show, it obviously it's easier with chess. You just got to move the pieces around, but they made it feel as real as possible. Like if you were like a huge chess nerd, you wouldn't be able to catch them on like, oh, like you look at that. They would never do that in real life, like which I always appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the biggest chess nerd I know is Nick Manley, and he tells me that it all seemed
it all checked out.
It all checked out. So yeah, no, I think that's right. And again, I think I mean, I can think. Yeah, I mean, like even with like sports TV shows, I guess there's Friday Night Lights. There's like a fair amount of like. There's like a fair amount of kind of discussion about football strategy in that, but like it also, I remember watching that and thinking that was a little unusual, that like most things like this that I've watched, they really didn't bother.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even football movies that I've enjoyed, like remember the Titans or The Replacements, which is like that stupid movie from back in the day with Keanu Reeves. Like the football scenes are terrible. They make no sense. But whatever, like and you would think that it's the easiest thing in the world to get right. Like it's not that difficult. Like it's readily available. Tons of people know about it. It's not, you don't have to hire Gary Kasparov to help you get it right. Like any high school football coach down the street will more or less help you get it right. It's not that, but yeah, I mean, and then even just getting the actors. I mean, that's I always heard that's why Kevin Costner did every single baseball movie, because he was actually pretty good at baseball, and he can make the motions look believable. Like he could throw a baseball and make it look believable, whereas like Charlie Sheen throws a baseball and he looks like an idiot. So yeah.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, I mean, I was really. And I was really happy, that I discovered this. I mean, whatever, discovered it. I didn't,
the number one show in America.
Yeah, number one show in America. I somehow found out that it existed. It's like today, did really some deep research here. But really happy that I finally got around to watching it after like weeks of seeing everybody I knew talk about it.
Right.
And it is, I will say, like I almost never binge shows this way anymore,
right?
Like I used to, all the time.
They're just not as good as they used to be. They really are. They've gotten worse.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I will stand by that. Like they're not as good. I don't know what they've become. I don't know. They've lost a little bit of their. They've just become a little repetitive, a little kind of the same. I don't know. They just don't. I think they don't sing like they used to me.
Yeah, and I think that part of the problem, I've been thinking about this since we've been doing the Sopranos stuff, is that like one of the things that makes the Sopranos so great and even so refreshing to go back to now is there's really good TV from before they figured out what they think the formula is for prestige TV, and now I think people creating, TV shows have, like even, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's mostly all been garbage, and it's still mostly all garbage. But like people creating what they think are really good TV shows. I think there's much more of a template now of what they're supposed to look like, and it's just not that interesting when you feel like you've kind of watched it before, because they're cribbing a little bit, that this is it's like, oh yeah, we've all seen Mad Men, we've all seen this, that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah. Have you seen Babylon Berlin, the German show? So Babylon Berlin was produced from a production design standpoint, by the same people who did Queen's Gambit, but also I highly recommend it because politically it's one of the most astute shows. I mean, it takes place in Weimar, Germany. It's a detective kind of noir in the context, like in 1920s Berlin. But really the political subtext is, like, to me, spot on. It's basically about how liberals and trots are incapable of standing up to fascists, essentially, and that liberals hate the left more than they hate Nazis. But highly recommend it. But also, you'll recognize watching Queen's Gambit, like after having seen Queen's Gambit, that it's done by the same people. Like it kind of has the same look, and they do a good job of what these companies really specializes in is in doing very affordable period stuff that looks cool. It doesn't necessarily look accurate, but it looks cool, and it's very, very affordable for whatever reason. Because I think Netflix kind of more or less greenlit this show on a we'll give you one more shot. Godless was okay. It didn't really, no one really watched it. Here's one more shot. We'll give you, and we're not going to give you any money to hire any major stars. You're not going to get a huge production budget, but go do your thing. And, lo and behold, but go watch Babylon Berlin. And I would recommend watching it in German, not to sound like a snob, but with English subtitles, because it also does capture the politics of it. I thought, perfectly well. It wasn't like, annoying lib shit.
Cool. Yeah. No, absolutely. I could do that. I was just thinking, man, I remember, I think I remember less of my high school German than I remember about chess, but I could, watch that with subtitles. No, that actually sounds really fun. I should watch that, and then you should come back sometime to talk about it.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
All right. Well, look, this was really fun. I'm really glad you came on to do this.
Anytime.
Yeah. Anything you want to plug on your way out?
Just catch my, Saturdays in Jacobin. That's every Saturday. Hop in, get in the stream, and enjoy the show. I mean, it's me and Anna. We have a lot of fun with it. We always have good guests. That's the good thing about the Jacobin brand. I mean, you must hustle to book your guests. I mean, we got the Jacobin kind of established legacy left brand. It's easy to get a Corey Robin or whoever. You're building your brand. That's why it's very impressive, Ben.
Yeah, Jeremy Corbyn at some point, right?
We'd hope. I mean, we had him booked, and then he got kicked out of the fucking Labor Party. And that kind of that kind of fucked everything up. But hold on, let me just but so we're gonna have him on soon, hopefully when all these things quiet down. But that Keir Starmer is to blame for us not having interviewed him yet, because he was gonna do it, and then like literally the day before is when the news broke about him getting kicked out of the Labor or suspended from the Labor Party. Because he said in the politest possible way that this report indicting his time as Labor Party leader wasn't really accurate, and apparently in this case disparaging the boot is a bootable offense. So awesome. I really enjoy watching Weekends. It's a good the guests are consistently great. I love Corey Robin, obviously, fan of yours. I love watching Anna, do her thing. And it's, she gets fiery. I'm a little bit more mellow. She gets fiery, man. She spits the hot fire. That's why the people love her.
Fair enough. All right.
All right, brother.
All right. Thank you so much, Nando.
Take it easy.
Thanks.
Later.
All right. That was Nando Vila, co-host of Woke Bros, co-host of Weekends, co-host of Let's Pot It Out. Always really, really enjoy talking to him. I should plug before I go a couple things that are coming up. So actually, a couple of them are coming up tonight. So at 6:30 on the Jacobin channel. My next Jacobin Quick Take is airing then. So these just short commentaries I've been doing every week. David Griscom's been doing every week, and they're a lot of fun to do. This one is about my longstanding proposal to nationalize Ivy League universities. So it was a fun one to record. That's coming out. It's like 10 minutes. It's short commentary. So that's coming up in about half an hour on the Jacobin YouTube channel, and in about an hour at 7 on the TMBS YouTube channel. I mentioned this earlier. They're going to be airing a discussion that was recorded this afternoon between me and Mark Blythe and the great Richard Wolff about left economics, which I really enjoyed recording. So you should check that out on this channel. Tomorrow, I am going to be hosting a discussion between two, returning champ guests who are going to be disagreeing in this case. So Eric Levitz of New York Mag Intelligencer wrote a piece about fascism analogies for Trump, and friend of the show, frequent guest Danny Bessner, expressed some disagreements with this piece, and so I asked them both if they wanted to come on the stream and have it out. Have a final climactic, very polite discussion, I'm assuming, but that should be really interesting. Levitz versus Bessner on fascism. So that's tomorrow at 5 Eastern. At Thursday at 5 Eastern, back to the cultural stuff. Going to be doing a stream about Apocalypse Now with my producer Forrest, who's the resident film buff, and also Micah Utrecht, who's the deputy editor of Jacobin. And then on Friday at 5, we are going to have Cole James Cash on to talk about Neera Tanden's appointment to the Office of Management and Budget, and which he had some very funny things to say about on Twitter, and other things. So that should all be great. And then on Sunday, going to be continuing the weekly Sunday debate breakdown series where I watch old debates with various guests and talk about them. So the first one had been James Baldwin versus William F. Buckley. The one we did, that was with Matt McManus. The one last week was with Gene Bajalan and David Slavic, watching the Hitchens versus Hitchens debate, Christopher Hitchens versus Peter Hitchens on the Iraq War. And we are going to be continuing on Hitchens versus Hitchens this Sunday with Jeremy Johnson. We're going to be watching the second debate that the Hitchens brothers did. It was on the same night on about God, so a little new atheism era throwback there. And then the week after that, I'm going to be watching the Chomsky versus Foucault debate with Matt McManus and Russ Briglia. And the week after that, I am going to be watching William F. Buckley versus Michael Harrington on Firing Line back in the day. I'm going to be watching that with Bhaskar Sankara. So all of those should be really fun. As far as the main show goes, the next episode is going to be Anna Kasparian, who I was just talking about with Nando. And I'm also going to be debating libertarian Jason Lee Bias. And then the week after that, I'm going to be talking to Amber Frost from Chapo and Slavoj Žižek. So that should be a really fun one. So, and then, after that, we might take a week off, for that week between Christmas and New Year's. But lots of good stuff coming up. Hope you guys check out all of it. Oh yeah. As the Hitchens book gets closer, we'll do tons of content about it. Actually, I don't know about the date yet, but Peter Hitchens himself is going to be coming on the show at some point. So we're still trying to nail down the exact date. So so all that stuff should be really fun. Really looking forward to all of it. Really appreciate all you guys. Oh yeah, Finkelstein versus Dershowitz, should definitely do that at some point. But yeah, really appreciate all you guys for showing up, asking questions in chat, just making this fun. And if you like the work that we're doing here, and you want everybody involved in it, which is more people than you might think, to make this happen, to get paid a living wage, please do consider becoming a patron. You join so it's patreon.com/Ben Burgess. So if you do that for $5 a month, you get early access to every episode. So, I'm going to be doing the next Sopranos recap bonus episode, for example, next Tuesday, with Nando and Big Waz and Mike Racine. And that's, going to be available early to patrons. Going to be doing a bunch of other bonus stuff like that for patrons in the new year. But even the regular episodes, you get access to it early. You get the unlisted YouTube stream, so you can watch it being recorded a couple days before everybody else gets the nice edited version as podcasts and YouTube. You get access to Discord, regular Discord office hours, group voice chats. So you get a lot of extra content for this, but most importantly, again, it helps build up the project. And so really appreciate everybody who does that. If you can't afford that, totally understand, but please do like and subscribe here on YouTube. Please do rate and review wherever you get podcasts. I know that this is the most cliched thing for podcasters to tell people to hear. You say you've heard it 1,000 times, but those things really do help. So anyway, could be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern with Eric Levitz and Daniel Bessner to have it out about fascism. So hope people are back for that. I'll see you then. Left is best.